Hey folks, Johnny here. You know, the last few times we've been talking about a godly man, looking at Job for some insights and counsel on how we ought to be as men. We looked at and looking at chapter 1, we saw the first part was his standing. He was blameless, upright, feared God, turned away from evil. The second part, we looked at his stewardship, and we looked at that in two areas. Number one, in his possessions, in his parenting. In his possessions, we saw the 7 sons, 3 daughters, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a very great household, great many servants. We saw that. And we saw that he had good stewardship there. We also saw that he had great stewardship with his children as being the high priest of his house. So we saw this with his standing and with his stewardship. But as you know and I know, we see his life up to this point, and we see it as being eminently prosperous. He follows God. He's blessed. And indeed he is, because he follows God. But what happens in life when everything falls through? What happens when nothing you do is right? What happens when you lose everything? And that's what we see in the latter part of the first chapter of Job, beginning of verse 20, where the sons of God and Satan also, the adversary, present themselves before God. And God reposes a great deal of trust in Job. And he says to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? I mean, we know that the devil, goes about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, because he is set to seek, to steal and kill and destroy. That is his whole function in life. But here God is saying, have you considered my servant Job? There is no one like him. He is righteous and upright. He fears God, and he turns away from evil. So Satan says, if you take everything he has, he'll curse you to his face. And we know that. But I want you to look at the response Job gave. Now, when you look here, you'll see that when Satan attacks him, he attacks him and takes away, in reverse order, what we see God has blessed in the beginning of the chapter. He takes away, the Sabians come. They take away the oxen and the donkeys, and there's only one servant left to tell Job about it. The second thing they did was fire comes down from heaven and destroys the sheep and the servants. Only one servant is able to come back and tell Job about it. The third thing is the tornado comes and takes his sons and daughters, and only one servant is there to tell Job about it. All of this calamity happens to Job in one day. All of this calamity. What happens when your world falls apart in one day? I want to suggest, if we have been blameless and upright, fearing God and turning away from evil, especially the last part, fearing God and turning away from evil, then our eyes and our hearts are set on him. Our eyes and hearts are set on him. So when calamity does come, and it will come, then we are in a better position to respond to it. You see, the true nature of a man's heart is revealed in those moments of profound chaos, in those moments of extreme sorrow. And what do you do? Where do you turn? Well, if we're Job, or if we're like Job, if we seek to be the kind of godly men God wants us to be, then we're going to turn to the Lord, as Job would do. He always was turning back to the Lord. See, God is more interested in your character than he is your comfort. So no matter where you are in life, consider it joy when you encounter trials, knowing that this testing of your faith produces endurance. God wants you perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Remember, everything we're going through in life, Jesus has already gone through. Every trial, every suffering, every temptation, every doubt. And yet Jesus overcame them for each of us. So dear ones, men, let's remember, today, let's triumph through loss. Let's triumph in spite of sorrow. That's it for now, dear ones. We'll talk again.